Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, welcome to March. March update time. March update, March, Mosquito, Mosquito March. Mosquito update. You can do any combination or correlation you want amongst those. That's what we're here to talk about today. So I'm going to start off today by first of all, I'm going to talk about the Nantwich Universal Model Show, which I went to last week. I'm sure many of you saw my montage from it. I have to be honest, there was some. It was slightly old this year. I think it was quieter. I'm sure it was because there's quite a few. I actually had people writing to me afterwards saying, "Sorry, we weren't there." 2 or 3 people said they weren't there, different groups, and it felt quieter. And the tables, there were 1 or 2 spare tables, so it wasn't quite as busy as it was in the last couple of years, if I'm honest. But there's an upside to that, because it was a bit. Last year I really struggled because it was very nice to meet. A lot of you come up and say hello, which is absolutely fantastic. It's really nice to meet people that are viewers of the channel and subscribers. But last year I got a bit overwhelmed by it because I just didn't get around to see anything. That was the time I went, and I didn't get any lunch. Didn't get any lunch because they shut the canteen at 2 o'clock, which I thought was a bit strange because it's supposed to be open till 4, but anyway. There was no food after 2 o'clock, so I never got any lunch, never got to see the competition area. Well, just to prove my point, actually, the competition area was much smaller than I've seen it before. So there was, I don't know if it was the weather or I don't know whether people are finding it a bit pricey to travel or whatever, but it was definitely a quieter show than previous years. But it wasn't quiet, it wasn't dead or anything. No, it was still quite busy at times. But I enjoyed it more, if I'm honest, because it was just about right for me. It was that balance between being busy, good for the traders, you know, and we'll talk about one of the traders in a second. But it was also just not so busy that you can actually take photographs. So I got some fairly decent photographs this time. But there weren't so many things like the big dioramas that we've seen in years past. So there was definitely less content, I think. But it was kind of more manageable, so I quite enjoyed it. It was actually quite relaxing to walk around and enjoy. And some of you who might be watching this video will have, I managed to engage with a lot more people that were sitting at the tables and talk about their models, which is something I like to do a lot more, but I just rarely get the chance, you know. So I enjoyed it, if I'm honest. I'm not complaining it was quiet. I wouldn't want to see it get any quieter than that. And it was such basically I rolled up and they said, the gentleman that was taking on the desk as you walk in to pay entrance fee, and he asked me my age. Well, I won't go into the details, but he asked me my age and I immediately got a discount. Oh, this has never happened before, so I thought, fantastic. So all was well as far as I was concerned, and I met 1 or 2 old friends there as well. Shot the breeze and chewed the fat with them, which was nice to do. So yeah, it was actually a very enjoyable show. Perhaps the most enjoyable for 3 or 4 years, probably since COVID, if I'm honest, for me anyway. But there we go, so that's what we did. Well, while I was there, I caught up with my good friend, if I can just find the details. Where is it? Yes, I'll just get this out of the way and just talk about this quickly. Yeah, Rob Brooks from Brooks Models, BrooksModels.com. He's one of the traders there, and he's a really good trader. He has so many interesting things. He was there with his wife this time, but he has all sorts of things like paints and glues and kits and, you know, all the tools you need. You name it. There we go, info at Brooks Models. You name it and he's kind of got it. And he very kindly gave me to test, to do a review on, this photo etch glue. Because I actually looked down at this. I'm a big fan of Deluxe Materials products. But I looked down at it and I said, oh, perhaps a bit cheekily, I said, oh, is that really a different glue for photo etch parts? Or is it really glue and glaze? Which I actually bought some off him. I've got some over here. This is actually gone a bit yellow. I've got a new one over there. So I got the glue and glaze, and I said, well, it looks the same. It could be the same product. And he said, I genuinely don't know about the formulation. He said, why don't you have it gratis and do a review, mention us on the channel, and actually have a go with it and perhaps compare the two at some point. So I'm going to do that. I thought it'd be quite interesting. It's not the sort of thing I normally do. But with this Mosquito, there's quite a few extra photo etch parts that we're not probably going to get to use. So that gives us a few things to play with, really. So in an episode coming up perhaps later in the month, in March, we'll have me having a little play around with this and doing a comparison It'll probably be an edited vid, so I'll show you using it, and then I'll cut forward maybe, I don't know, 24 hours. And we'll compare what the two are like. It could be that they're the same product, I don't know, I'm not saying they are. We'll find out though, we'll get to the bottom of it. That was one product that he did for us, which I thought was very interesting, and I say, he didn't charge you, so I should say that. But I just want to actually compare if it is the same product as the glue and glaze or not. Well, so it's this photo etch glue for accurate application of metal etch parts to plastic and metal surfaces, and it cleans up with water. And it includes the applicator, which is it's like a syringe almost at the back, and it's actually underneath the label. I'll get into that one, actually demo it. You peel that label back, and it's actually inserted underneath in like a recess. Very clever stuff. That was one thing. The other thing, which I did buy, was this. He was talking about the. I'm a big fan of this Ammo Ultra Glue, which is really good as an alternative to super glue for photo etch parts and clear parts. But this is the matte version. Now, why is that interesting? Well, he was saying that what it's good for, and when he was talking about this, it instantly brought visions into my head of the Sea Harrier, which you might remember had lots of very smallish parts that had to be glued on right at the end of the build. All the weapons and the lights and the undercarriage gear parts and the outriggers and all that stuff. Sidewinders. And it was fiddly in the extreme. Well, this is matte, so it enables you to sort of to plonk it in. It dries completely clear, but it's not glossy, so it doesn't really catch the eye. So you can get away with using that a little bit more, potentially. Don't hold me to this or sue me. Well, this is the theory, that it's an acrylic base, obviously. It's matte, it's clear, and therefore it doesn't catch the eye. So you can, once it dries, it shouldn't be noticeable. As long as you don't plaster it around too much, But it's quite an interesting idea, and I thought, that's something we should definitely try, having a matte version of it. So I normally use the standard one, which is over here. So there we go. So we've got standard with the black label, and then we've got the new product, the matte, which is in the green label, as you can see. So I thought we'd give that a little test as well, and maybe have a play with it, and maybe use it on this Mosquito. So that is the plan. So we'll be doing that, having a little an adhesive seminar, you might say, coming in the very near future, where we're going to do some back-to-back sort of testing and bench testing it properly. So stay tuned for that. So that's the first thing. Just get that out of the way. So that's my glues covered. The other thing I wanted to mention was, some of you may have seen, and I suspect a lot of you have not seen, but on my other channel, Peter Goes Rogue, last week I had a proper rant, and it's something that has been brewing for a very, very long time, decades to be honest, about potholes on the roads. Now, this is not unique to me, and I think a lot of people seem to enjoy this rant, the ones that watched it. But I'd like more of you to see that, because it's on my quite small channel, very small. And I wanted to just show you a couple of things which were quite amusing. This photograph is it's like a industrial protection smock that somebody sent me. It's actually a very good friend and colleague of my wife's actually sent this. This is me with this is my pothole inspection overalls, complete with a rubber duck and a big ruler. And it says pothole monitor on the back. I don't know if you can see that. I thought that was quite funny, to be honest. Unfortunately, I didn't have it in time to do my video. This came as a result of the vid. But if you just bear with me 1 second, there was quite an amusing couple of shots. Somebody's very rude to me about this, complaining about my appearance. Where is it? Pothole Hell. Here we go. So this is the video in question. Now, this is over on Peter Goes Rogue. I'll put a link in today's video. I would urge you to have a look at this, because it is slightly tongue-in-cheek at times, but actually it's a pretty serious subject. And I do allude to the fact that on the road in question, a gentleman actually died within the last 12 months, 9 months ago, in fact. Somebody died. It's less than 9 months, 8 months. Somebody died there quite recently on this road where these potholes were. Now, I don't think his accident, I'm not trying to link the two things, because I'm not sure it was pothole related. His accident was a motorcyclist and he got killed at a junction, crossroads. But it's right beside this junction. It's the most horrendous potholes. I mean, properly dangerous. And to prove the point, one of my good friends had his, he ran over it. And this is a 60, this promise, it's a 60-mile-an-hour road. So you've got the worst of all worlds. You've got the most hideous potholes on a very high-speed road. And he actually went over it. I'm sure he wasn't doing 60, to be honest, probably doing more like 40. Because it's between a couple of bends, but it's still a fast road, and he went over it and hit this horrible, hideous defect that's almost like a cliff ridge sort of sticking up right into your tyre, and it did real damage to his tyre. He had a fairly new Goodyear tyre, sorry, and it put a horrible great blister, like a great big bulge in his tyre, and it had to be replaced for safety reasons. Anyway, I'll put the link in. I would urge you, it's about a 50-minute video, and I show quite a number of these potholes, and some of them are measure, and I went out with my vlogging camera and literally took my life in my hands. You can see how fast and busy this road is at times, with lorries zipping through at 60 mile an hour. You know, it's, and when you look at the state of the road, and then you look at the speed of the traffic, and the two things are not compatible at all. So really, really frightening stuff. So it's something I wanted to make for a while, and you know, it's not unique, as I say, to my area. There's quite a few areas, but I will say this: since the day after I made the video and published it, there was some figures were published for the UK that said that the local authority I complained about, I have a real rant about them at length, proper full-on rant, and it's not tongue-in-cheek, and it's not done for the cameras or for clicks. It is a proper, from the heart, road rage rant. And it turns out that Cheshire East, the local authority, are the second worst for potholes in Britain. So I was right. You know, we have the second most potholes per mile, basically, of road. Horrendous, really bad situation, and a very mal-managed council. Anyway, go and see the video. It's very, very good. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'll put the link in. And we need some more support, please, for my sister channel, Peter Goes Rogue, because we have still only got about 800 subscribers, and we could do with... We need 1,000. We really need that. So we just need 200 more subscribers. So that'd only be, you know, I think we've only got something like 5% of the number of subscribers. Sorry, 7%, isn't it? 6.5%, 7% of the number of subscribers on that channel that we have on this one. So please, would you go over and subscribe to Peter Goes Rogue, have a look at the potholes and the other things that I've done. I think you find it interesting, entertaining, and also a little bit disturbing at the same time. Anyway, that's something else for you to watch later. So today we're going to now talk about March update. I'm going to talk about the update on the Mosquito. So where to start? Where else to start? But we've got the Merlins built now. What I'm showing you is that it's all work in progress. None of this is finished, you know. So I am mid-process on the Merlins, in truth. They're basically built. Let me zoom you in. And they've got their beautiful Rolls-Royce nameplates on, which really makes them pop, I think. Let's see if we can get this on the camera. Yeah, I'm not sure that light in the background is doing us any favour. Let's just get rid of that. There we go. So here we are, complete with our Rolls-Royce nameplates. Now it's not finished in terms of, it's not had any weathering done to it yet, and it's what I will go around and do, and if any of you've seen my Spitfire, you'll remember this. Every single bolt head will have a little tiny bit of weathering on it, just to make it look like it's, you know, it's got that like slightly silverized, like it's just been undone, or, you know, we don't want it to be jet black. That doesn't. It looks a little bit too toy-like as it is at the moment. So all those bolts will all have a little bit of highlighting to make it look like they have actually been done up or undone. And then over on this side, you can see you've got the Rolls-Royce nameplate again. These nameplates, if you're interested, these are from Iconic Air, who make the most beautiful little nameplates. And if you're going to do any of these Spitfires or Merlin engines, you know, Mosquitoes or whatever, you really want to get yourself some of these Iconic Air nameplates, because they really do look absolutely fantastic. How do you paint them? Well, that's quite easy. A bit of a tip for you coming up. You ready for this? Sorry, let me just show the one in the background so you can see I've got both of them just before I zoom back. There we go. Yeah, there we are. That's the second one. So what we do with those nameplates, they're quite small. The trickiest part of them actually is getting them off the fret that's full in a set. You need to cut them very cleanly, and you won't be able to cut them completely cleanly, even with the right. I've got special photo etch scissors from Tamiya, but I use the diamond file. Do I have it here? I did have it in front of me. Where's it gone? Here it is. The Tamiya diamond file. That's this little devil here. I'll zoom you back again. This is worth its weight in gold, because this is really for. It is literally diamond encrusted file. So filing photo etch down becomes child's play. Let me move that away. There we go. And there. Can we have a focus? Yes, there we go, some focus. Diamond file. So it is this diamond encrusted file, and it files down metal like it's butter, quite frankly. So I definitely recommend that to you if you do a lot of work with photo etch. And it just takes, when you've cut the contact point and the fret, and it just files it down, which you won't be able to do with a lot of other things really. And it just leaves it lovely and smooth, and then you end up with a nice nameplate. So what I do then is I sprayed them black with the semi-gloss X18, and then made sure that was all dried and set, and then a few hours later came back, and then with a very fine cotton board, again, example A, show you my secrets here. You're going to have to pay me for this, you know, you're going to have to pay. I'm going to come with my hand out in a couple of weeks, you'll see. So you get a bit of IPA, isopropyl alcohol on it, or you can use thinner, like a thinner or a solvent thinner, but you only want a tiny bit of it. You don't want this dripping at all, you want it just moist. And then you just rub it across the nameplates, and it removes the black, and of course it just leaves it in the recess where it says Rolls-Royce. And that is how you end up with that effect. So it's almost like a negative paint effect, if you know what I mean. And I think they look really nice, don't they? So all these, this will just really pop once I start. There'll be a little bit of dry brushing, just a faint bit of dry brushing here and there. And there's going to be all these bolts and all the screw heads and bolt heads are all going to be made to come alive a little bit, make it all pop a bit better. And that's the way we're going to do that. Now, this is when I came to a bit of a dilemma, because I did seriously consider really going the whole hog. I'm going to show some photographs of somebody who did go the whole hog and see how good it looks. Let me just show you. And I don't know who it is, forgive me if it's your work. Forgive me, it's certainly not my work. But some of you remember on the Spitfire that was very lacking in coolant tubes and things like that. So the fuel rails, for example, the fuel rails. Here we go. Now you can see this is where it's had a load of. I'm not sure this is actually aftermarket. I suspect it is actually an aftermarket set, which I don't have. I'm not too sure which one it was, to be honest. So I decided not in the end to go. Not to go this route. But it does look really, really impressive, I've got to say. So I wouldn't want to deter anybody from going for that. Here we go, and then you've got the. So this is a fuel supply rail, and the ignition wiring rails as well. And you can see this is again not my work. Somebody else has really gone the whole hog with this, really trying to add some amazing detail. And this is what is a little bit lacking on the Tamiya kit in the standard form. Now I have to tell you that people like Phil Flory have already tackled this model very nicely in the past. Many of them, including him, have gone for the Edouard engines and then had real battles trying to get it in, and the fit isn't quite right, and it just needs a lot of fettling and blah blah blah. And I remember he concluded, what's this, years ago, and he concluded that really actually the Merlins are sufficiently detailed, especially when they're in all the cradles with the unless you're going to display them deliberately both open, either open, it's probably not necessary. And this is what I came to in one of these moments where I almost came to a dead stop here during the week, of last week, and I thought, oh, do I really want to do this? Now, hang on a second, let's just, because I could see I'm going to go into this OCD Ron Dennis mode of thinking where I have to get it absolutely authentic. And then I'm thinking, am I going to display it with that engine open anyway? I might just have one of the bottom panels off or the side panel off. But I'm probably not going to display it in a way that you'd see all this detail anyway. You're not going to see it from the top, I don't think, anyway. So you do have to realise that it's probably pointless, actually. But those of you that want to, I take my hat off, and this gentleman, whoever it was, has done some beautiful work. Can you see that? I'll zoom you back in again. Yeah, this is beyond impressive, you know. But the amount of time that would take me to achieve that, and I did seriously consider it. I even started getting ready here. Sorry, I got some Albion alloys, got some brass rod out, and I was going to start working on it. And then I thought, just hang on a second. It comes down to how far do you want to go, and it wasn't me being chicken. It was more a case of you see it here. This is actually from a computer animation that's actually on YouTube, which I found, which is quite interesting, showing the parts that we're talking about. Well, you've got basically it's the ignition wires that are shown here, isn't it, with the spark plugs at different angles. You've got the plenum chambers on the top there, and then you've got the fuel feed, and then here you've got all the ignition wiring loom. So yeah, I mean, this is a helpful diagram, which is why I've kept it, you know, saved it. But it's how far do you want to go, and none of that. Okay, none of that's in the kit, and you're going to either have to scratch build it, which is what I would have to do, and I've decided not to. Because I think it's just going to bring this build to a crashing stop, and I'm enjoying it so much, genuinely, that I don't want to lose that flow that I've got into now. I'm not rushing. There's no hurry. It's not a race. Mr. Flory, who made a rather unkind comment about my slow building, which is true actually, but he seemed to confuse me with somebody else on YouTube that doesn't tend to finish his models. I've never ever not finished a model, just for the record. There we go. Just thought I'd put that out there. But no, it's just deciding whether you want to go that extra mile. And if you're going to have this all open and displayed, I'm probably not going to do that. I wanted to add those nameplates because I bought them already. And I really think they make it pop. And I think that it's almost a distraction in a way, because when that's got the exhaust on as well, some of this extra detail that you add is going to be very hard to see, genuinely hard to see. And it's that thing of, is it worth it? I think not in this case. So probably not going to. I'm not going to display both engines open anyway, so we're going to push on. Anyway, let's have a look at where we are in terms of the actual fuselage and what I've got up to, and I'll just talk you through, show you what I've done, and then I'll talk you through one or two issues I've had, issues that are mainly self-inflicted actually. But let's zoom in on this, and you can see that I've now got the actual horizontal stabilisers at the back, and the elevators are now on. Now this vertical tail isn't actually fixed. That's not glued in place. I can just pop that off like that. Just for convenience, so I can do that. I can do that near the end, you know, just glue it in. Just makes it less cumbersome, you know. So we have a zoom in and a real close look at this. You can see where I've got to basically. And here we go. So we've got the tail wheel is not glued in either, so I can literally just pop that out. I'll just show you by gently wiggling it. There we go. So it makes it easier to paint. I can then just put some foam in there, a bit of masking tape, whatever, and I can just paint all this. And you can now see exactly, there's had to be just a smear of filler here and there, just a tiny smear. But it is very, very minimal. And I used the Deluxe Materials Perfect Plastic Putty, which I really like. It's water-based, and you can just sort of wet your thumb and smear it away, and you end up with the absolute minimal of filler. And if you look at it over here, you can see where I felt there was a slight need, because there was just a tiny gap. I mean, these things fit together perfectly, but there was just a slight inconsistency, a bit of a gap on this side, and then over on this side, just a slight gap, but not at the top. It was a slight gap just further down. So I've gone for, you know, trying to minimise the impact of that, and just basically dial it out. And this Perfect Plastic Putty does a brilliant job, it really does. And it's not messy, and you don't end up having to sand it off. You can just smear it off with a cotton bud. And this is why I've got such a perfect looking application of it, really. And again, you can just see just a hint of it here, just where there's been one or two of these nubs from the contact gate, where perhaps when you've cut it off, and it sometimes just leaves a little bit, either a little bit too much or a little bit too little, where you've cleaned it up, which is what happened there, I think. And also underneath down here. I think you'll agree it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. So if I put my tail back on, vertical tail, there we go. I'll glue it easy, and then of course we've now got Group Captain Picard at the controls. This is all now temporarily taped in. I've even got underneath, you may notice I've got these on the bomb bay. You're probably thinking, why has he done that now? Because that's all one piece, which it is. I'm just preparing, because that's where you're going to cut it ultimately, down the centre. So I've just got my masking tape there to A, remind me, and B, align it perfectly where the cut will take place. So yeah, fairly happy with that. So I think we're up to stage 25 in the build now. So in reality, I think it's stage 26, because don't forget the final stage is the figures, which I've already done. So it says I'm a quarter of the way through the build. As I mentioned the other day, I think, the Flory Forum. In reality, so much of this build is fine painting in the cockpit and what have you, that it's more than 25%. You're actually about 40-45% into the build actually now. So it's well advancing. But I'm not going to rush it. I'm not in a hurry to finish it. I just want to keep plodding and keep the standard up, you know. I'm very happy now with, I was showing some of these internal parts at the last update a few weeks ago. I think one of you, was it George in Holland? And he said, oh, it's different colour that, there's a colour difference. And I realised after, I said, no there isn't, it's the same colour. And then I realised afterwards that he was sort of half right, because it was, one side was weathered and the other wasn't, because I knew the other side wasn't going to be seen. This is on the internal cockpit green XF71. So if you see anything like that, there'll be a reason like that. But you won't see any colour change in an area that's visible. But it's all ready to go really. So the next step is, just put it to one side, and then I'm going to talk about a few mistakes I've made, blunders. Uh-oh, I did a whoopsie. I did more than one, so I did 2 or 3, I'll show you. Things easy to get wrong if you're not quite paying attention. And I was convinced Tamio had made a mistake. I'll tell you one of them. This, I'll zoom in and I'll show the engine again. This is the shroud, the sort of heat shroud for where the exhaust stubs are going to come out of the engine. And the reason I've got this in my hand is I realised it's got a couple of studs on the back that should go into your Merlin here, and it basically goes something like, bear with me a second because I haven't quite got the best glasses on for this job. It's basically, yeah, there. It's clipped in almost, but there should, so it's got like a male stud on both sides. There's a male stud on this piece, this grey piece of plastic, but there's also 2 holes and 2 more male studs that are on the piece of plastic, and 2 that are on the actual cylinder head. So it really locks it in, you know, very securely. However, what did Peter do? Oopsie poopsie, made a bit of a boo-boo. She's showing you the instructions. I completely missed, I don't know how, this bit now at the top right you're looking at, where it says to drill these holes. And I have a confession to make. I questioned here that there was no hole there, but I didn't spot the fact that it tells you to drill it here, both for that rail, which is part of the fuel rail system, I think, and also for these these bigger ones that are 1.2mm for locating your exhaust. And that was a bit of a boo-boo by me, to be honest. And when I realised finally that I'd missed it, I was thinking, what are you, Stevie Wondery? It's pretty clear, it's right at the top of the page. Not sure how many I've got. So I know that Tammy I've had 1 or 2 faux pas, but that's definitely a faux pas on my part this time. Oops. So the good news is that was a major problem. The other faux pas I did was when I was gluing in. Where are we? Yeah, gluing these parts together. I'll show you the instructions. It's probably easy to explain it. When I was doing the gearbox at the front, which transfers the power from the crankshaft to the prop shaft here. Somebody will have seen that I did several photographs where they were unpainted, and then I painted them. And then I just forgot about this piece, and then just glued it all together. Luckily, just using the tiniest touch of extra thin, just there and just there. And I didn't glue it all the way around the circumference here. Thank God. And then I realised I hadn't put this in. No! What a mistake and a maker. Anyway, luckily for me, because I've been so frugal with my adhesive, I was able to literally just pop them apart without any effort, and it didn't make any mess at all. So I got away with it. I painted them in the titanium silver, as they should be, and you now see them in their completed form, as you see here. That's how it should look now. But that was a bit of a silly slip. So I've made a couple of tiny errors, but nothing that's caused me any long-term problem or will affect the model ultimately at all. And as I say, these exhausts, where are they? Yeah, the fitting here, which is the bit where I should have drilled out those two holes. I mean, that was surprising though. I am not entirely happy with Sammy on this, because a 1.2mm hole is more than big enough for them to have moulded that. It's not like it's a fine hole. They could have moulded that one, that size, quite easily, so I don't know why we had to do that anyway. Yeah, which is why probably I didn't seem to catch my attention. But because you've got, you should have one hole going in and two lugs going in and two lugs coming out, male lugs. You've still got the male lugs coming out, and it still will glue in there very positively with a positive position, no problem at all. But it just shows you've got to have your wits about you. And I think I went into this mode when I was building these engines of, oh, it's very repetitive, I want to get through this because it's two of everything, a bit boring, There's quite a bit of clean-up on those parts required as well to make sure that they are going to fit properly. And I got a bit too focused on that and not so focused on the instructions. So there we are. Anyway, we've got one or two bits of fine painting to do on those engines, just to highlight a few parts. There's a couple of parts that are silver, aluminium, that I haven't done yet. So they're not finished, as I say, and they will pop a lot more. I'll show them once I've done them, probably next week. And then you're onto your cradles and your cooling system and your your liquid coolant and your oil lubrication system tanks. And then dropping your engines in, So it is kind of time to get those engines sort of detailed up, so to speak. A little bit of dry brushing, a little bit of perhaps a little bit of oily grime, a little bit of very faint silver highlighting, just for sort of scuffs and things. And I think it'll come up really well, really well. Anyway, that's where we're at. So I think there's anything more I should tell you at this stage. Is there anything else? Was there something else that I'm going to tell you where we had a slight hiccup? What was it? I'm sure there was something. Yes, there was another. Actually, I made another error. Same thing where I forgot to drill the hole because I saw this. Now this shows you. Don't get smart. Just do as you're told. I need to learn this myself, obviously. So here's another classic example of making the same error. And it's easy to do with a complex, big project like this. And it's this here. It tells you to drill this hole. So you've got the main block where the crankshaft is that fits into the sump here, oil sump. And it tells you to drill a 1.2mm hole. But the hole's already there. And I thought, well, that's just crazy. What's that for? They don't need to do that. So I did one, and then I ploughed on and I put it together and it fit perfectly, absolutely beautiful. Very, very strange. I don't understand what another. That's why I've got a question mark next to it. Like, what the hell is that for? What are they doing? Have they got somebody working for them that used to work at Kinetic? Oh, God almighty, Unfortunately, when I came to the end, I realised there was a second reason, but they didn't make it very clear. Again, they didn't explain it as well as they might have done. By the way, they have these two jigs, which I don't remember on the Spitfire being on there, because I'm not sure. These jigs I didn't feel were particularly necessary. I mean, honestly, I didn't see what purpose they served at all. Because the angle and the engineering of the plastic is so perfect, you don't need a jig. It just goes on when you glue the this part, when you glue the cylinders on. They automatically go into the perfect angle. Just didn't see the need for that. But where I went wrong is here. That hole that it tells you to drill, which it doesn't explain properly, isn't for the inside, for where the sump fits in. It's for the outside, where there's this ancillary component. I think it's basically an oil filter that sits on the bottom and plugs into the hole you should have drilled. Except that Peter, in his wisdom, didn't drill the hole as we know. I've done it again. And it's only at the very end of the step on the engine, you see that part, you're thinking, oh my god, it must be it's obviously like a catch tank or a particle collector, like a magnetic particle collector or a filter of some sort, right at the bottom of the engine, in the sump. And I haven't drilled the hole. It's too late now because I've stuck the engine and I've done it again. So anyway, the good news was that the way that it shows it in the diagram is absolutely dead on in terms of its positioning, and I was able to drill from the outside in, and it actually made a cleaner hole. I did it both ways. On the second engine I then did it the right way, but it left a lot of swarf and not the nicest. It's not a problem now, but it didn't leave the most satisfying clean hole. Whereas when you drill from the outside in, although you're not supposed to do it that way, you did end up with a perfect hole, and I got it right first time. The trouble is I dropped my display drill afterwards, after I'd done the job, shattering the drill bit. But luckily I do have several sets now. We live and learn, don't we? So you see, I'm not perfect, far from it. I'm not very good at always following the instructions. Sometimes I look at it and think, well, we don't need to know that, come on, I can do it. I'm a man, I don't need to read the instructions. Well, get out of it, I know what I'm doing, I've built one of these already. Oh. Anyway, all's well that ends well. As you can see, I'll show you, just to prove the point, that no Merlins were harmed in the making of this movie. You can see I've got my little collector at the bottom of the sump there. There it is, sticking out at the bottom here. All is well, and I think I can't even tell which was which now, because they've gone in absolutely perfectly in the end. Same on this one. Yeah. And there it is. That's gone in at a slightly odd angle. I think that might have been the one that I screwed up. I say odd angle, it's only perhaps a degree out. It's alright this way. It's not quite horizontal, is it? It's just actually, don't think it's going to give us any problems though at all. And it looks absolutely lovely, to be honest. So I'm very happy with that. And I say, once I do all these bolt heads and a little bit of dry brushing and just a little bit of uplifting weathering, shall we say, a little bit of enhancing, then I think it's going to look really, really nice. And I've been obviously taking my time, and it's working quite well for me. And somebody actually said to me, one of you wrote to me and said, I had a couple of questions as well, just refer to them. One of you wrote to me and said, doing this slowly is working so well for you, it looks amazing, which is a very nice thing to say. And somebody else was asking me questions about the way I did the Merlins, and he was asking, on YouTube this was, and he said, oh, is that the way you do it? Because I showed that photo, I should show you again here, where I show all the parts separately. He says, find them. Yeah, here we go. This is before I sprayed them. And he said, oh, I see, so you spray it all separately, do you? Now, the thing is, if you don't spray them separately, and I did both in the end, in a way, because there's a shot somewhere. Where is that photo I had? There was a photo of them. No, I've lost it. No. Don't know what I've done with it now. But there's a photo of them in the black. A second, because I did have it. 1 second, bear with me, folks. Bear with me. I definitely had a shot of them painted. Yeah, here we go. Where is it? Here. This is the photo we're looking for. And you can see, one I completely built the engine. The other one I didn't. I didn't put on the supercharger compressor at the back, because I realised it was a little bit funny, a little bit tricky to spray in. There's quite a lot of components that get in each other's way, and you can end up with it looking not quite sprayed properly. So I did it in 2 different ways, in truth, and you can see the effect there. One's completely built, one's not quite completely built. That's something else. Anyway, so it's turned out to be quite interesting in that he was asking me, do you glue it all together with superglue at the end? I said, well, I don't use superglue unless I can avoid it. As I mentioned, I prefer these acrylic glues. But of course I had to use superglue for the Rolls-Royce nameplates, because it's metal, you know, a photo etch. But no, I just used... I can't state how good the kit is, though, and this is important in what I'm trying to explain, because getting those parts to go together, the only issue I had was when I was putting the gearbox part on at the front, because I'd got some overspray onto the internal bits, it just did this thing where it bulks up the tolerance slightly, and it didn't slide on as well as you might like. So that was the only issue, and what I did is I actually got some extra thin and just took off this glue on the little spigot, the male spigot, and then slid it back on. It was perfect again. And the fit is so perfect, you don't need superglue. You don't need superglue. And as I mentioned, something I've learned from some other modelers, including people like Scalaton. He did this F14 Tomcat, the 48 scale Tamiya, and he was like, a touch of glue there, and a touch there, and he used hardly any glue, and I was like, is that going to hold together? And it's the same with this. It does hold together because it's so well engineered. Those parts went together. I mean, you saw the pictures of it unglued, unglued that was, and it looked like it was completed. It looked like I glued it all up and done. It wasn't. It was all loose. That's how good the engineering is. So you don't need to go in there plastering glue in. You just need to touch it. So it just by capillary action touches the 2 surfaces. That's it. Remarkable, and that's thanks to the brilliant design and engineering of the kit, really. So no, I don't use superglue. I use superglue as little as I possibly can. I tend to use these other products that are acrylic based, PVA based, but for the most part it's extra thin. I actually do use also, I've been using the Plastic Magic from Deluxe Materials. So I basically, the 3 adhesives I've used on most of these parts that I'm doing now, where it's major parts of the kit, plastic going together. We've got my trusty white glue, which is the Tamiya standard, but it's got the lid, because I wanted the finer brush. I'll show you this. I wanted the finer brush, you see, because the standard white glue comes with this great big thick brush, which is so useless. Really the last thing you want. So I wanted that fine brush there from the extra thin. So that's actually been stolen from a previous extra thin. Then I've got my extra thin, which is doing a lot of the well-engineered parts. And if I think it needs a bit more grip, I tend to go in with this. The only stuff... This is excellent. I really like this because it doesn't... It's not as messy as the white Tamiya standard. The only thing against it is it dries really quickly. It does dry. It's thicker than extra thin, but it dries like extra thin. It dries fast. So just be wary with that. With the white, you can manoeuvre things around a bit. If you're not too sure about the fit of some parts, you've got wiggle room, but you haven't really got that with either the extra thin or the Plastic Magic. It dries real fast, instantly almost. So be aware, be aware. So there we go. So I think that the way I've built it is a very clean looking build, you know, which is what I always do. I mean, this gentleman that asked me about the way the engines were actually built, the sort of process. I'm not suggesting that's the way you should do it, but this really harks back. Why am I doing it like that? Well, It goes back to my Formula 1 and the motorbike build I did. I tend to build things in units, and I like to bring them together with just a minimal amount of glue at the end. And when I built these engines, I did it in a more traditional way. I built most of it up and then sprayed it at the end. I didn't spray them first, as you saw. I did it in a very normal, typical way, you might say. But that's not really my way. My way, that was perfect for speed, you know, because it's all the same colour. So this is why I'm going to go back and do a little bit of silver parts that need added. That'll be highlighted in there. And then we'll be moving on to the wings is the next thing. We'll get the engines in, and then it's basically the construction of the wings, the nacelles, the engine coolant tanks at the front, and then you get onto building up the whole wing. That's where we're at. So it'll be another update, probably in a fortnight's time. I'm trying to do the fortnight of these because I think you're enjoying them. Thank you for the feedback I'm getting. I'm getting a lot of massive encouragement from you all, and it does matter because it's quite a big project, you know, and it's not. Several of you have said, I've got that kit, I want to build it, but I'm not sure if I'm up to it yet. And people say this about a lot of expensive kits, and I can understand it, especially when it's £200. You know, it's not cheap, is it? Maybe I was a bit like that in my own mind as well. It's 11 years since I was given this kit as a gift. So, you know, I'm not a quick builder, like Phil Fleury said. How long's it taken you, he said? And then Matt Ball, bless him, to his great credit, he piped up and defended me. He said, it's not a race though, is it? It's not a race, you know. But better to enjoy it and do it well than do it quickly. And that's very, very true. Don't feel pressurised into doing it in a rush. That wouldn't allow me to use my process, my approach at all. Once I do that wing, you then build up all this radio gear that has to go in behind where the navigator sits. And I'm quite looking forward to that, because that's another area where there's going to be some very fine painting and switches and dials and things. Coming soon. It'll be engines, more engines for the next couple of weeks, I think. And the sort of engine cradles and coolants and things. And then by the end of March we'll be on to the wings and building up the radio set. And then I think it goes to undercarriage, I think that's next. So like exhausts, then the undercarriage. Yeah, building up those lovely wheels, I'm looking forward to doing that. I know that's going to be fun. And actually, the radio gear comes a bit later actually, it's the way around. And then you're doing the guns, and then the bombs, bomb bays, all your bomb bay doors, and then your propellers and your final processes with your canopies and things. So there we go. So that's the latest stage of the Mosquito build. So what do we say that was? Is that stage 8 now? I think we're up to stage 8. I'm actually losing track myself. I think we are at number 8. Your videos. Let's have a look at your videos. There we go. Yeah, that is stage 8 completed. Okay, so stage 9, as I say, will be fitting those engines in, and then stage 10 will be the building up the wings. So please stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, I've got to tell you that we've got some wonderful new stuff coming from ICM. I was thinking about them this week because, last week I should say, it was the 4th anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine, wasn't it, on the 24th? And I wrote them a relatively emotional message, actually. Let me read it to you, because I'm sure you'll probably agree with the sentiment of this. I'll read it to you, and I'll also read you their response, because I think that it's worthy of your time. Yeah. And I basically said the following. Dear, basically to Valeria and Alina. Valeria's the MD, of course. Alina's the lady I deal with for most of the time. And I put, to all of you and your ICM colleagues and all your fellow Ukrainians, I just wanted to say I realise that today, 24th, is another difficult anniversary 4 years after your country was invaded. The fact that this awful war has continued so long is mainly a testament to the bravery, resilience and courage of the people of Ukraine, whose resistance to tyranny and aggression reminds us of our own struggle against the Nazis in World War II. I was very disgusted to learn that the Russian athletes may be allowed back into the Olympics soon. Brackets. We will be boycotting watching that. Yeah, they're certainly letting him into the Paralympics, which I don't agree with. Anyway, I mean, I don't agree with them being in the Olympics at all. It's the same with any country that does what they've done. It's not anti-Russian sentiment per se. It's based on what they've done, and I don't see why they're allowed to be there. I just don't understand it. Anyway, I go on. I said I was also disappointed about the helmet ban on the Ukrainian skeleton racer at the Winter Olympics, meaning he couldn't compete. This was very upsetting for us too. But I was very pleased to hear he has been rewarded by your President Zelensky and the Shakhtar Donetsk football team president, who apparently gave him, I think it was basically, was it €200,000? Basically the equivalent of winning the gold medal. He would have won in prize money, but anyway. I put here, I am starting to believe that your struggle may slowly get easier as Russia seems to be running out of materials and people to continue this madness. And there is speculation here that the tide may have turned in Ukraine's favour. I do hope so. Please keep your spirits up and heads held high. In the future, people will surely talk of your struggle in the same way as they do today about the Battle of Britain, and the courage of your generation in the face of such wickedness will long be remembered. Wishing you continued strength and faith in the just outcome of your struggle. You have all our support, fully as always. Warmest wishes to you on this day, and I raise a glass to the final victory, your final victory, and the great inspiration your honourable example brings to the modern world. Kind regards, Peter. And they've written back to me very nicely and said, thank you so much for your thoughtful and encouraging words. Your support and solidarity means a great deal to us, especially during these challenging times. Knowing that people like you stand with Ukraine gives us continued strength and hope every day. Your message reminds us that our struggle and courage are seen and valued beyond our own borders, and it truly inspires us to keep things moving forward. Kind regards, everybody at ICM. Which I thought was really nice. And, I think that there's just this, I'm getting a bit concerned again about this war weariness that's creeping in. Like I mentioned about the Olympics, they're talking about letting the Russians in. No. Why? What's changed? No. If they were banned, 3 years ago, why are they still not banned? That doesn't make sense, and it's just people getting a bit war weary, I think. And people very quickly turn their attention elsewhere. And I think that what brought it home to me, and the reason I was a little bit emotional there with my support, was this. There's a very, very excellent documentary which was filmed a few months ago about the teams in Ukraine who have to go and find the missing on the battlefield. I don't know if you've seen it. I'll put you a link in below. And it was very moving, I've got to say. Very, very heartbreaking. And I just sat there and thought, this is the worst job in the world. This makes someone who cleans toilets for a living realise that they've got quite a good career, actually. And I'm not joking. It's harrowing is the word, and it's got to be seen, this documentary, and it makes you realise that the awfulness, but the honour of these people that are, determined not to leave people behind if they possibly can avoid it, and they're tracing their relatives and using DNA tests and all sorts to bring closure for people who've lost their loved ones in this horrible war. And I would urge you to watch that. I don't want to go on about it. I think you should watch it for yourselves. It's about a 50-minute documentary. Well worth your time. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. But thanks to ICM, they've sent me some lovely stuff. We've got more variants of things like, we've got different versions of the Hamden coming through. We've got the Black Hawk helicopters. We've got the Henschel. We've got some American armour. We've got a vintage car coming. What's the other one that's coming? Another variant of the Marauder that comes like a complete set, which is going to be well worth your time seeing that one. Lots of stuff to show you very soon, so please stay tuned. I think you'll find this quite enjoyable. Also stay tuned, because I'm going to be talking very, very soon in the month of March about my channel going to memberships. Now, it's not becoming elitist, it's not becoming exclusive. It's adding something, and we're going to be doing slightly different things. So there will be, just to give you a brief idea, I'm not on social media and I don't intend to go on social media, but there will be a social element to it. I think what we'll do is we'll have, perhaps once a month, we'll have a live building night for members only, where everybody can tune in while they do a bit of building and just chat in live chat. What I do when I've got I just put my radio on here, when I'm modelling, I literally have my classic FM radio on in the background, playing away, as you'll hear in a second. I won't play. I just realised I could get in trouble with them if there's any music playing. But I have the radio on there in the background, so we might do that. We'll have a social night, I think, once a month. We'll have videos where I'm showing you some techniques, crafty. So I will do perhaps a little bit of filming of one or two of these. Perhaps the next stage I'm going to do here, I might do some filming. There's going to be, of course. There'll be videos that are specifically for members only, but things like those reviews that you're used to from me won't change. They will remain as they are, but we will offer you extra benefits, extra shows, live shows, and goodies. There'll be goodies, so it will be worth your while being a member on this channel. I promise you. You'll feel the benefit. You'll see the benefit, and you'll feel the benefit. The only thing I will add, though, I did say that I'm going to give kits. Some of these kits, extra view samples, will be donated to members at no cost, free. The only thing I would say though is that one or two of these kits are quite big and they are very costly to post, so I would just ask the member pays for the postage at cost, whatever it is. But I'm just thinking of one or two that are big boxes is going to cost a tenner probably to post them, so I'm sure the member will cover the postage for us. But if you're getting a kit that's worth £70–80, you know. As I say, you'll feel the benefit. You'll see that it's great value. Being a member, I hope you'll join in. Don't forget, please go and have a look at my pothole video over on Peter Goes Rogue. That is disturbing and fascinating at the same time. I take my life in my hands like a chicken running across the road. Crazy, really. Luckily, it was a good day with good visibility. But worth a watch. Please subscribe to Peter Goes Rogue. By the way, last week, some of you that did tune in for the pothole video when it was live had major problems with the chat. Absolutely nothing to do with my YouTube channel. Turns out that YouTube's entire chat failed that night, and we've seen other people comment on other channels saying, sorry, there was no chat. There's a problem with YouTube. I don't know what they're doing. It's happened again, hasn't it? But it's frustrating. I was writing away, and none of it was appearing. I had Steve and even my wife was on there making a long comment to some people that were chatting away, and after 10 minutes it just stopped. The chat just froze. There was no more chat. Didn't disappear, just didn't let you add any more. It's crazy. Anyway, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my channel. Another YouTube bad night, you know, glitch. So please don't be put off. Please subscribe to the channel, and please keep subscribing to this channel because we need your support very, very much at the moment. Until next time, I thank you for watching. I hope you found it was interesting seeing my latest update, and we'll probably have another one on the Mosquito in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, stay tuned. Lots of lovely kits to have a look at. Nice goodies that you might be able to get your hands on yourself if you play your cards right. Become a member. Okay. Anyway, in the meantime, thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Take care. Stay well, stay safe. And I'll see you again soon. In the meantime, thanks a lot. And bye for now.